Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy that you're here to see me. Happy to be seen. Welcome. I see Zelda has reclaimed her spot atop the first rankings. Welcome, Zelda, the Trump Reaper, Foxhill Dreams, Valerie G, Claudia, Misha Oliver, Minnie Mouse, Genital Losing. glad glad to see you, Genital Losing, Misha Oliver, Scout. Monique Lee is here. Laurie Feldberg, Valerie G, Bernadette H, Jenny Rayner, Samantha Hawkins, Cindy C, Diane London, Mama AG, Cecile Kazemi, Star She Made. Everybody's here. The gang is all here, for crying out loud. Lulu Girl, Philosophy is here. Claudia says, love the podcast. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Kind words from you. Audrey, you too, is here. Marie from New Jersey. LB is here. Ba. Okay, so listen, we got a lot of things to cover, quite a few things. So let's just do a very quick recap of what we're going to discuss in what I like to call stories of the day.
Stories of the day.
You know what I wouldn't give to have, for my voice to really be like that and walk into a Starbucks and be like, I'll have a venti. What the hell did I used to order there? I can't remember that coffee. I'll have a venti Pike's Place. Okay, let's see. The title of today's show is Pecker Puts Peckerhead in Peril. I'm a sucker for alliteration. I'm an aficionado of alliteration. You see what I did there? SCOTUS ponders president immunity, or presidential, I should say. I couldn't fit presidential, so I just they know what I'm talking about here. Presidential immunity. There it is. Donald Trump is actually still falling asleep on a daily basis, and not only is he falling asleep, he's complaining about how cold it is. It's cold. I can't fix the thermostat. I'm cold. And the testimony by David Pecker it should be devastating to his case. We'll see what happens. President Biden was visiting today with none other than Howard Stern, and he said some things. We'll discuss what he said. Here's another court artist rendering. This was the SCOTUS hearing to determine what the ridiculous premise of whether or not a president should have presidential immunity. It's not even a thing. They love to say, "Oh yeah, abortion is not in the Constitution." Well, guess what? Neither is presidential immunity. It's not a thing. It's not even necessary. Don't even get me started. Get me started. It's too late. I'm already started. God damn it. Anyway, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. The like button looks like my hand, except it's not black. The thumbs up icon and also the subscribe button, so you don't miss any fantastical content coming out of this channel. And the like button ensures that more people will see something. They'll see, I suppose. And speaking of seeing something, Um, Speaking of seeing something, the Defiant podcast has entered and completed its second week of episodes. So far, I've had four, count them, four podcast episodes. All of them just, I love them so much. They've gotten better. I'm getting kind of good at it, at asking people question. Can I ask you a question? Um, and this week I spoke to Grant Stern. You guys know Grant from Occupy Democrats, and I also spoke to Reed Galen. Reed Galen, a very smart dude from the group. Some of you may know this group, the Lincoln Project. Yes, Reed Galen is the co-founder of the Lincoln Project, and he's very smart. And he had some things to say, and I'm going to share with you a snippet of what transpired on this week's shoe. He's complaining that he's stuck in court all day long while Joe Biden is out there campaigning, and really it's his own goddamn fault.
Right.
I wonder if his appearance over the past week of falling asleep in court, and farting, and the whining stuff, the veneer of invincibility, of alphaness, seems to be failing him right now. It's buffering right now. What do you think that does to his is his base with him, no matter what, no matter how weak and sappy he appears?
Look, you are making a brilliant point, and a brilliant point when it comes to the leaders of authoritarian movements. And you just hit the nail on the head. When their invincibility is pierced, it's only a matter of time, to use a bad balloon analogy, whether or not the balloon pops all at once or it's a slow leak. Either way, the balloon empties out.
Ha 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 ha. He said as brilliant, and I know that, but I thank you anyway, Reed. It's a great interview. That just dropped today. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Amazon, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And Lula Girl, thank you for the kind donation. And the Trump Reaper wants to know, will I ever have Michael Cohen on again? That's an excellent question, because he was on my show here. He was on Storytime, and I would love to have him back on the Defiant podcast. He's a great guest. He's very knowledgeable, and he's gonna be probably the star witness in this what they're calling, a lot of folks are calling, the hush money trial. I don't fall into that trap. I'm trying to stick to what it is. It's election interference is what it is. Yeah. So let's see. Ba-da-ba-ba. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Look at this. So many nice things. Jenny Rayner says the Defiant Podcast is awesome. Followed it on Spotify. Thank you for that. I see Bernadette here says, love the Defiant Podcast. BDD, you are fantastic and amazing. Thank you. Please, no, please don't. So yeah, okay, there's Reed Galen. Oh, and so coming up this Monday, I had a riveting discussion with a friend of the show. You guys remember the last time he was on Storytime, he didn't fare so well on the guessing game. But anyway, he's back from Ukraine. It's none other than Malcolm Nance. Malcolm Nance will be back on the show. Well, I interviewed him yesterday, but the episode is dropping on Monday, so keep an eye out for that. If you haven't listened to the Defiant podcast yet, what are you waiting for? Do it now. Well, actually, not now, but later. Do it later. He's super duper smart. A question here from Dashik wants to know any advice how Joe Biden should use his upcoming immunity powers. Yes, he should unseat He should unseat all 6 of the conservative justices on the Supreme Court, and he should uh, postpone, suspend the election until we know what's going on. Not really, but it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny. I would love to see. Wouldn't mind if he trolled Republicans on that note. I would just curious to see what they would do, because they don't seem to have a problem with Spanky McDumbass, exercising some bullshit immunity that no president in history has ever needed to demand, let alone needed to use. So anyway, speaking of Michael Cohen, and we were speaking of Michael Cohen a few minutes ago. Michael Cohen, I was interviewed by a reporter from the Washington Post, Peter Jameson. And let me just, before I get into this, so I get calls on my cell phone every day, all day long. A lot of them are spam. Are you guys getting a lot of spam phone calls too? Just like it, and your phone, it'll say spam, whatever. I get a lot of those. But I also occasionally will get people who like, I haven't got one of these in a while, but somebody like engaged me in a conversation. They made me think that they were an actual reporter. And I started talking to them, and like 5, maybe even 10 minutes into this call, then they sprung it on me. They were like, "And so, Majid, you mind if I call you Brooklyn Dad and tell you what a scumbag liberal you are?" I'm like, dude, really? You just wasted that? This is your joke? This is your prank that you wasted 10 minutes of my time just to tell me on the phone that I'm a liberal shill or whatever? Get the hell out of here. The bullshit. Anyway, so that's what I thought when this guy called me. He said he was from the Washington Post. I was like, how do I know you're really from the Washington Post? It's like, well, I could email you from my Washington Post email account. I said, it's exactly what it's exactly what a troll would say. No. Anyway, so we got to talking. He's doing an article on Michael Cohen, and he wanted to get a range of excuse me, of perspectives of people's opinions on who Michael Cohen is. Do you believe him? Do you think he's worth a second chance? Do you think he's redeemed himself? And I totally do. Already do, for a long time. In fact, from the moment he testified in front of Congress, I was like, that shit takes balls. He took more of a stand against Donald Trump than elected members of government, fucking cowardly senators and congressmen. They just, they're cowardly. They all know that he's shit, and they cower. They cower at his feet. So Michael Cohen doing what he did, knowing what he knows about Donald Trump and how vengeful he is, good on you, Michael Cohen. I will defend him, any goddamn day of the week, twice on Sundays. So anyway, so he interviewed me, and here's what I had said. I said, my wife and I will be watching a show, and this is one of my analogies, right? We'll be watching a show, and we'll see a character that is miserable and pathetic in the beginning of the show, and I'll say, watch, this guy is on a redemption arc, said Majid Padelin, better known as the left-wing influencer Brooklyn Dad Defiant, to his 1.3 million followers on the social media platform Twitter. No, I'm not calling it X. God damn it. I think you could kind of say that about Michael Cohen. Padelin, who has appeared on Cohen's podcast, said he is convinced. Like, first of all, let me just dude, could you not have just said who has his own podcast known as the Defiant Podcast? Could you not have just dropped my podcast? Gosh, you could have even said who interviewed Cohen on his own. Anyway, I digress. Padilla appeared on Cohen's podcast, said he is convinced Cohen is a, quote, stand-up guy who is doing the right thing at great personal cost. Quote, say what you will about him, but there are very few people who are willing to publicly go on the record against a very vengeful guy like Donald Trump, Padilla said. And nobody knows how vengeful Donald Trump is better than Michael Cohen, who was often the instrument of Trump's vengeance. So, yeah, what can I say? I'm a little bit famous. No, it's very cool, and I was glad to contribute my 2 cents towards the discussion. I like him. Frankly, I like him, and nobody knows the the benefit of second chances and redemption more than me. Who I've had my own hard scrabble life. So I hope he's well, and I hope he stays well. But speaking of hard scrabble life, I only have one quick review for you guys today, and it's a movie called Monkey Man, and it's starring this gentleman you might recognize from movies like Pi, I think it was, or was it The Life of Pi? Dev Patel, brilliant, very talented young man, and directed by none other than, oh wait, was it directed or produced? I think it's produced by Jordan Peele of Key and Peele fame, and also of the director of the movie Get Out. Nope, he likes doing horror movies. This is more of an action movie. At first, when I first saw the trailer some months back, it was sorry, Michelle says now she's getting a spam call. And when I first saw the trailer, I thought Monkey Man was kind of like an Indian John Wick, because it was very jam packed full of action. And I'm only halfway through. Actually, I've only seen half of this movie. I tend to see the other half tonight. Mixed. It took a while to get to where it is right now. I thought I think it did too many flashbacks. Anyway, this is a guy who had a hard scrabble life himself. And where he is now, this is the character here. He's wearing a monkey mask, and he's in a ring. He's in a fighting ring, and this is what he does. He fights for a living. He gets his ass kicked for a living in India. The visuals, I think, are beautiful. The peak at another culture, at the Indian culture, or I guess maybe it's Indian subculture, or it's it takes place in India. I'm not sure where, but they show a lot of poverty. There's a lot of poverty there, but there's also a lot of beauty there as well, and beauty and pain and all these different things. So he wears a monkey mask when he fights, and he is looking for retribution. That's all I can say about that. So far, it's interesting. So I will let you guys know what I think about it when I see the end of it. And now let's move on to the news part of the show. The news part. Earlier this week, we had another primary, and this one was in Pennsylvania. And in Pennsylvania, first, there's been a trend. And I tweeted about this. But in every place where there's been a primary, the trend is that President Biden routinely ranks in he routinely gets numbers in the high 80s or low to mid 90s. He's way up there, way up there. He does, still lose a tiny fraction of votes to Dean Phillips. He's like a zombie candidate. He's already pulled out. So he lost 6.8% of votes to Dean Phillips. But Donald Trump now is routinely losing anywhere from 17% is probably on the low end of the average amount of votes that he's losing. He's losing anywhere from 17 to 30%. In some places, as high as even 40% he's lost. So that's not looking good for somebody who claims, the whole Republican Party loves him and he's dominant. That's not dominant. You're losing 17% of your votes to somebody who declared over 6 weeks ago that she is out of the race. 17%. That's a big deal. 17%, mind you, in Pennsylvania was 114,000 votes. In a lot of states in the last election in 2020, despite the fact that President Biden won by 7 million popular votes, there were some states where the margin of victory was about 80,000 or less. So if you're losing 114,000, I wonder if he's thinking to himself, maybe I shouldn't have told the Haley voters that we don't want you. Do you guys remember that? He told Nikki Haley voters, we don't want you. If you've donated money to Nikki Haley, we don't want you. We got enough. You got enough? Political suicide. Political suicide. If that wasn't proof enough that the man has completely lost his mind, I don't know what is. People are still backing him. Go figure. President Biden today. Yeah, you know what? I never used to like Howard Stern. I know he's a shock jock. His shtick throughout his career has been to say shocking things that get people riled up. Politically incorrect, rude, sexist, racist, whatever. He said some things in the past that were like, hey, whoa, hey. It's a shock jock. He says things to intentionally provoke people, to provoke a response. That's what he does. You could say he's perhaps perfected that art. Whatever the case may be. When he came out against Donald Trump years ago, I was like, still don't like you, but I respect what you're doing. Respect. We don't have to love the people that we are aligned with, we're allied with against Donald Trump. Our coalition is going to include a bunch of people that normally we would not be seen in the same room with. But hey, the enemy of my enemy for now, for the time being. So anyway, President Biden visited with Howard Stern, Sirius XM, and I think that was kind of a savvy move because Howard Stern has a massive audience. So he said some things like, for instance, oh, look at this. The Trump Reaper says she was astonished that Stern supports BLM. Actually, I'm not even astonished by that because, his partner in crime there, I don't know, is Robin, what is her last name? It's not Robin Givens, right? Robin, his right-hand woman, the woman that runs the show with him, is she still there? Because she's black, and I would think over the years, you didn't even have to know that his partner was on the show was black to know that he's not racist. I don't think he's racist. I know he said a lot of stupid, vulgar things. Robin Quivers, thank you, Trump Reaper. And Zelda, my friend, woohoo! Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very kindly. That is extremely generous. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. So anyway, yeah. Long story short, President Biden said that if reelected, that he would codify Roe. So that is a big deal. That is the goal. That is what hopefully will help galvanize more and more voters to show up. Because frankly, it's scary. It's scary that despite the fact that there has been a very angry and immediate response about what Republicans have been doing around the country, you still have some people who are like, I don't know, he's old, but President Biden, look how old he is. But it's too late. This is what we got. We got old and older. We got old and crazy and senile and dangerous and kind of old. That's it. Those are our choices. You might not like them now, so fucking engage yourself. Get involved in the process earlier, right? Don't wait until it's election year and and you piss off, I don't have time for politics. But now it's election year. It's like, holy shit, yeah, I don't like either of these guys. Then get fucking involved. Get involved. Put your support behind someone else. Give us another choice, another option to back, right? Do that. Don't show up in the 11th hour. I'm undecided. Frankly, I am sick of these elections where it's, every time you turn around, this is the most important election. I'm tired of these most important election. Really, I just want to get back to, the time when the future of humanity did not rest on who we elect as president. It kind of feels like that's the theme every election. I digress. So the other thing that was cool was that President Biden said he would debate Donald Trump at some point this year. I don't know if that's cool. I said that's cool, but I don't know if Trump deserves that lifeline. I don't think he deserves it. I don't think he deserves to be on the same stage as President Biden. Donald Trump is a fucking 91 felony jackass, or 88 felonies. That's a lot of felonies. Why should President Biden do him the favor? I know it's tradition. It's always done, but these are unprecedented times. It's never happened that a former president who tried to overturn an election, first of all, that's never happened. You've never had a former president incite an insurrection. That's never happened. You never had a former president be found liable for sexual assault. That's never happened. So all these unprecedented things, why should he debate him? Because, and here's my point. My point is that no matter what happens, Donald Trump will fucking just interrupt and be loud, and he won't answer any questions, and he'll say whatever the hell he wants to say. He won't abide by any rules, and the moderators will not cut off his mic. You know this. We've seen this already. We've seen this show too many times. I don't know if Joe has another "will you shut up" man in his pocket. I'm sure he will whip it out, because that worked pretty well for him before. But goddamn, I don't know. I think President Biden could easily take Trump, behind the woodshed and teach him the error of his ways. And actually, when Trump found out today that President Biden said that he would debate him, he said, "Oh, I'll see him anywhere. Let's do it right now." Come on, dude. You know what the protocol is. That's not happening. Presidents have an agenda, then they have security concerns. He's just going to meet you somewhere, some rando place, since they're both in New York. Get the fuck out of here. That's what Donald Trump did by saying, yeah, let's debate now, is that bullshit, that bravado thing. I don't know if you guys ever saw this, right? But when I was younger, when two guys really didn't want to fight, they would make sure that their buddy was standing by, and he'd be like, hold me back. Hold me. Wait, let me put my, and it looked like they were about to fight. One guy would be like, hold me back. And he pushed his chest out, right? he pushed his chest right into his buddy's outstretched arm. Hold me back. He didn't want to fight. He just made it look like he wanted to fight. Punk ass biatch. In other news today, we got this was a big endorsement notched by President Biden from the National Association BTU building building technicians something of America. BTU. It's a big deal. It's a union. Builders. It's a builders union, and who loves infrastructure more than actual builders? He's putting food on the table by passing his infrastructure bill. It's a very big deal. It's huge. Here's something else that's huge, but it's only gone by in a whisper this week because James Comer. Wait, James Comer? What the hell is his name? Anyway, Comer, Rep. Comer, he has said quietly, he's whispered to associates that he's ready to be done. He's ready to be done with the Biden impeachment probe. Quietly. He hasn't called a press conference like the press conferences in which he says he's got proof, he's got evidence that will that is impeachable crimes. All this bravado, all this bombast, all this loud bullshit. He was so loudly insisting that President Biden should be impeached because we have all this nothing burgers. Comer Pile. That's right. That's right. Goddamn Comer Pile. You should have to fucking call a press conference and say, you know what? I thought I had something, but I didn't. Actually, I didn't even think I had anything. I knew I didn't have anything, but what do you want? I'm dealing with the hand that was dealt me. We have a shitty hand. We have a conference that has passed no bills. We have nothing to show for anything for the past 2 years. We have nothing to show. So what could I do? I tried to, it was just a Hail Mary. This was out of desperation. We had nothing. We tried to impeach Joe Biden. Yes, I know it was dumb. Yes, I'm an idiot sandwich. He should have to say all that publicly in a press conference. God damn it. This was great too. This was excellent. Secretary Pete Buttigieg, made an announcement this week, and I guess the White House also made an announcement. This is huge. Have you ever had a flight delayed, like for 3 hours or more? I've had some flights delayed and canceled. I don't think I've ever lost luggage, and I'm going to knock on wood. But this is big news. Now, the Biden administration has just passed a rule that airlines now must reimburse you if your flight is canceled, if your flight is delayed, and if they lose your luggage. And here's the catch, right? It's not a catch. Here's the kicker. This is what makes it even better, is that you don't even have to pick up the phone and stay on hold for hours trying to track this shit down. It's automatic. You will be reimbursed within 20 days. 20 days. Not only is President Biden doing what he can do to get rid of junk fees, but he's getting rid of the hassle in your lives. This is huge. This is fucking tremendous. And you know what? This should have been a much bigger deal, should have been made out of this. Much bigger deal. It's very big. Everybody knows what it's like to have your flight delayed, or canceled. People have been, in airports with all of their shit and trying, and now we have to eat this super duper expensive airline food and all that stuff. Look at that. Flight delayed, domestic flight delayed 3+ hours, and international flight delayed 6+ hours. You get your money back. And you don't have to pick up the phone to call about it. I think that's a beautiful thing. These are the kind of things that the Biden administration, what has President Biden done? Oh, he's done this. It's big. Talk about it. Tell your friends. Spread the word. God damn it. Okay, so this was actually one of the things that I discussed on my podcast with Malcolm Nance. There are protests going on in over 40 different universities across the country. Like there was actually some pretty serious protests happening in Columbia University. And when I say serious, it was serious enough so that administrators said that we're going to do a hybrid kind of learning, which meant that students would have some of their classes at home and some classes in class because some students were feeling unsafe. So let me say this. The United States, our whole premise, our whole reason for existing is based on protest. Why do you think people came here from England so many centuries ago? Came here and started a whole new shit, a whole new country, because they were protesting how life was in England under the king, under the rule of the king. We had a Revolutionary War. That was a major protest, and protests have continued on and on through, the Boston Tea Party, throwing all those boxes of tea overboard. Those weren't cheap, threw that tea overboard. Protest. Fast forward to, the civil rights era. I don't want to sit on the back of the bus. And so she didn't. And that's a major protest. That was a huge protest. People going to whites only cafes and diners and sitting down at the counter and having things thrown at them and being spat upon. That's protest. They already know that they're going to get fucked up when they do that. And you can see there's lots of black and white pictures. You can see people being abused and humiliated. That's protest. That's having some skin in the game. That's feeling so strongly about something that you put yourself out there at great risk to your own personal safety because other people's personal safety is also at risk. You're making a stand. The Vietnam War, same thing. Vietnam War, people burned their draft cards and they had sit-ins and, boycotts and marches because people were dying. People were dying and they were like, fuck that. And on and on and on. Protest. Protest is so important that the First Amendment guarantees our right to protest. It's the very First Amendment. It's nothing more important than the right for us to protest peacefully. Peacefully. That's the key right there. I don't think it says, I'm not even sure if it says peacefully protest. If there is a constitutional expert who knows whether or not the word peacefully is in there, right to assemble. But protest. The right to protest peacefully also means that you do not have the right to make other people feel unsafe, to use your First Amendment right to endanger the life of others or express that they don't have a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You don't have that right. You don't. You don't have the right to use your freedom of speech to yell fire in a crowded theater when there is no fire, because now you're making people unsafe. And that's what apparently is happening in some of these universities. I get it. I understand, I'm there with you when I see pictures, video, children being pulled out of rubble with their broken dead bodies, because they're being hammered and pounded by bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb being dropped on them. I despise that too. I despise what happened on October 7th. I do. I think Hamas is despicable in how it has positioned itself to put its own citizens at great personal risk. They have said themselves that they need the blood of civilians in order to fuel their campaign. And their campaign is dedicated to the death of Jewish people. And that's not right. When I was a kid, when I was like a teenager, my best friend was Jewish, and his mother taught me so much. She fueled a lot of the defiant that's in me. She fueled a lot of that. She told me, don't believe anything you see and only half of what you hear, something like that. And she also taught me that Black people and Jewish people should be like this. Because historically, we have a lot in common. So you do have the right to express the anger and frustration about the plight of the Palestinian civilians in Gaza. You absolutely have that right. You don't have the right to tell Jewish students, your fellow students, that they don't have a right to exist. They're not the ones ordering these bombs to be dropped. They're not. They're not part of that government there. They're in school with you. They're kids. Why are you punishing them? And in so doing, you are hurting the movement. You're hurting the movement. And what I was trying to get to the bottom of with Malcolm Nance is who is it that is orchestrating a lot of the more vitriolic sentiment in these protests? Because I remember when George Floyd was killed, the summer of 2020, the majority of the protests were peaceful. The majority, very peaceful. When I say the majority, I mean like an overwhelming majority, like 95% of those protests were peaceful. However, in the news, they're just saying if it bleeds, it leads. So it doesn't matter if, there were 10,000 peaceful protests, if you had 5 where people started fires and turned over cars and broke windows and stole things out of stores, that's what the news is going to follow. And so, sure, they showed lots of pictures and lots of videos of people doing quiet sit-ins and praying and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, what Trumpers and Republicans remember, they're destroying all this property. And look, they're burned down the police station. That's all they remember. It's all they remember. So the people who were doing that, they're just like anarchy. That's all they care about. They don't give a shit about the cause. Because all of a sudden, when you do that, they're not talking about George Floyd. They're not talking about the topic of, we need to retrain cops so they stop killing our unarmed black men and women. That's no longer the discussion. The discussion is these people are savages. These people are destroying property. Blah, 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 blah. Black Lives Matter is a terrorist group. Then they just spin off into whatever tangent, so they're discrediting the movement just by looking for chaos, just by creating chaos. If you gave a shit about our movement, why are you doing that? Fucking pisses me off. So I wonder, I wonder how difficult would it be to pay some, crisis actors, we'll call it that, crisis actors, to go in and infiltrate an otherwise peaceful movement and create chaos, to discredit that movement. How difficult would that be? Donald Trump has easily paid a bunch of people to show up at his at his stupid events, at his rallies when he first ran for president. There was a whole shitload of people who were paid, hired on Craigslist to cheer for him. Even recently in New York City, there were some staged events where it looked like there were all these people, showed up cheering for him. They were paid. In reality, this is what Donald Trump's. Hang on, let me. Where's my thing here? Show. Give me a second. Give me a second. Here we go. In reality, Donald Trump's support in New York City actually looked more like this. Yeah, nobody there. Nobody. Yeah, look, Marie from New Jersey. Thanks for backing me up there. It was the young Republicans. Thank you for that. Cindy C says he's still doing it now. Union workers, bodega, etc. Yeah. Yeah. So how difficult would it be to pay, several handfuls of people to go and infiltrate these protests and rile them up? People are already upset. How difficult would it be to get people rowdy? They're already packed close together. It's hard to see who's doing what, et cetera, et cetera. You hear chants, this and that. People are followers by nature. You start some stupid, idiotic chant talking about killing people or whatnot. These are the chants that I've heard. They're ludicrous. Our colleges and universities are places of higher learning. These are basically the centers of what right wingers are afraid of. This when they rail against wokeness, they're railing against our students for being woke, for being politically correct, for giving a shit how you address people. And we're expected to believe that the majority of our woke students and children suddenly don't give a shit about Jewish students. I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. Not buying it. That's bullshit. Anyway, a lot of that debate is between goes on between Malcolm, Nance, and I on Monday. Make sure you check it out. That's going to be a hell of an episode. The dude is very smart, very, very smart, and he taught me a lot of things. I always learn from Malcolm Nance. Anyway, shoo, boy. So yeah, 40 different universities, and look, this doesn't look very it doesn't look very violent, or it's just a bunch of folks in tents and doing stop funding genocide. They're still visible, because here's the other point about protest that I forgot to say. Right, protest has to be uncomfortable to be effective. It has to make people uncomfortable. It has to be inconvenient. It has to get in your face. It has to. It has to. How effective is your protest if you are quietly, sitting at home in your basement praying and nobody else is there too? Just, you're not even raising your voice. You're just quiet and just, oh, God, please give us some equality. Thank you. you know, that's not effective. That's not helping a soul. You have to be loud. You have to be in people's faces. And sometimes that results in traffic stoppages, and people get furious and they're like, why are you taking this out on me? Why are you making me late for my job? And you can understand the frustration, but that's how the issue gets publicity. And that's what we need. We need eyeballs on these issues. But you've lost the plot. You've gotten carried away. You've crossed the line if you're saying other people don't have the right to exist. It's that simple. You're not going to have safety for the Palestinians if you were threatening the Israelis. That's just, they have nuclear weapons. They have nuclear weapons. What is fucking wrong with you? They have nukes. You're not going to ever threaten the safety of Israelis or Jews. It's just not going to happen. They will take you out. They will take you out. And they have the right to. They do have the right to self-defense. That said, I question whether or not what Netanyahu is doing qualifies as self-defense. I question that. I question whether or not the constant bombardment of babies and women and old people is making them safer. I question that. That's self-defense? Killing like a 5-year-old little girl, an infant, starving them to death? That's self-defense? I don't think so. That's not self-defense. The only thing that is going to make both sides safe. Michelle, my friend, thank you so much for the kind donation. Thank you very much. So happy to have you here too. And for the advanced birthday wishes. Thank you for that. It's not going to make you safe. The only thing that's going to make both sides safe is a two-state solution, which Netanyahu is against. He is dead set against a two-state solution. And the only way you get to a two-state solution is if you convert hearts and minds. This is not going to be, excuse me, it's not an overnight solution. It is going to be a painstaking, long process, but you got to have peace first. You got to have a ceasefire. Enough is enough. You've killed enough people. It's been a debate whether or not the number is actually 30,000 or, whatever, but you've killed a shitload of people. You've destroyed the entire region, practically. The entire Gaza area is just rubble right now. Every time you kill somebody's little sister or little brother or father or uncle or mother or aunt, grandma, every time you kill one of them, you're creating another terrorist. You're creating somebody who is going to grow up resenting the people who destroyed their family. It's got to stop. And on the grassroots level, on the very bottom level, you got to reach the citizens. And to do that, You got to go into the synagogues, you got to go into the mosques, and the rabbis and the imams, they have to preach peace to their parishioners, to their worshipers. They have to preach peace nonstop until it finally fucking breaks through. And this is going to be decades. It's going to take decades to get to the point where more than 60% of people are like, yeah, you know what? You have a good point. You have a good point. Yeah, we need to get together. We need to be we need to have a two-state solution. And that's that. So anyway, I digress. But one last thing I will say about this is that it would be nice to see these cops treat the Proud Boys and Oath Keepers like this. And what's those khaki wearing clowns? Can't remember the name of those khaki clown fools. Oh, this was good. Actually, very good news. This was good news that happened yesterday. Arizona, the Arizona indicted all these people, everyone from Rudy Giuliani to Mark Meadows, Boris Epstein, Jenna Ellis, a whole lot of high-level people, lawyers, that were involved in the fake electors scheme in Arizona. Huge news. Huge. Boogaloo Boys. That's one of those groups. It might have been that. I can't remember their names. They're so stupid. Khaki clown fools. Oh yeah, and in addition to those high level folks, there were also 11 different Arizona Republicans that have been indicted as well. This is what I'm talking about. I would have liked to seen these indictments earlier, but better late than never. Also, the same kind of thing happened in Michigan. We learned as well too. So shit is happening. The arc of justice is bending ever so slowly, but it's bending. Speaking of justice, it was a courtroom full of kangaroos the other day. Kangaroo court. Actually, it was the Supreme Court, which was meeting to discuss whether or not Donald J. Trump is entitled to presidential immunity. You got to have it. If you don't have presidential immunity, you know what happens? Then you break the law and then you don't get away with it. We can't have that. Presidents should be allowed to break the law if they need to for whatever reason. As you can see here, the makeup of the court is 6 conservatives versus 3 liberals. And back in the day, we used to think that despite the fact that our court was not balanced, fairly one way or the other, you always assumed that these are learned individuals. They are going to rule in the side of justice. They are going to fairly interpret the Constitution, whatever the case may be. Now, this is kind of like a kangaroo court. It is unbalanced, unfairly, leaning all the way to the right, and it's politicized. And you no longer can really trust what is happening. So I was very impressed by our liberal justices, by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson in particular, but also by Justice Sotomayor and Justice Kagan. They held their own. Sadly, it does look as though, and maybe I'm being a little bit premature, but it did feel as though as though they were kind of leaning in the direction of giving Trump some limited immunity. It's just ludicrous. It's just disgraceful. They were talking about the difference between a personal liability versus an official act. And he'll just call Trump would just call anything that he did official business. I jacked off on somebody's desk, official business. When he was impeached, he was calling that call to President Zelensky a perfect call. He thought that extortion is perfect. He thought the same thing of that call where he was looking for 11,780 votes, which is one more than he had. That he thought was perfectly fine. So you can't. It's stupid. It's ridiculous. None of the other presidents in history have ever needed presidential immunity, and that includes Richard Nixon, who, he really could have used that presidential immunity. Instead, he needed to be pardoned. And in order to be pardoned, you have to admit guilt. So, so Sleepy Don could really use some immunity right now. He is on criminal trial. And I do enjoy the fact, I'll admit, I enjoy the fact that his ass is stuck in court, bitching about the cold, bitching about the fact that he's stuck in court while President Biden is out there handling his business. He's on the campaign trail. He's on the trail while Donald Trump is on trial. That's right. Ray here says, SCOTUS are setting America up to become Gilead. Gilead, by the way, thank you for that. Gilead is the fictional land in The Handmaid's Tale, which if you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend. It's a riveting, incredibly scary show. It's on Hulu. Check it out. And I wish, what the hell is up with the new season? I'm still waiting for the new season. If anybody has heard anything about it, please put it in the comments here. So happy to be a dual citizen living overseas, but I still fundraise for Dem candidates and register fellow expats to vote. Thank you, Ray. Thank you for that. I appreciate you and everything you're doing and everything the rest of you guys are doing to help elect Democrats and keep the Senate, flip the House, reelect President Biden. Thank you, all of you. So yeah, Donald Trump is in court. The Nod father was falling asleep today even. In fact, I do have a little bit of video. Somebody managed to get. Let me hang on. Let me pull in this video here. Share with you guys. This is a video of the sleeping that he did in court today. Wait, have I lost it? Here we go.
Wake up!
Hey, you should.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Not really. I'm not really sorry. Anyway, Under direct examination in court this week was David Pecker. And David Pecker was first directly examined by the prosecution, and that did draw some blood. And we learned the most important thing we learned from Pecker's testimony this week is that he did indeed hold back stories. They paid money for stories that were going to be damaging to Donald Trump. And they made up and unleashed a bunch of stories that were fake, literally the definition of fake news. And that includes stories about Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz and his father meeting with JFK's assassin, or Marco Rubio and Marco Rubio's lover, and even Sleepy Ben Carson about him leaving a sponge inside a patient's brain, and I'm sure you all remember all of the freaking stories that said that Hillary Clinton only had 6 months to live. These were all bullshit stories, and they were created by David Pecker to benefit the campaign of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not on trial for paying hush money because apparently that's not against the law. He is on trial for falsifying business records to make it look as though those payments were legal funds. They weren't legal funds. They were campaign funds. It's a big difference. It's a felony. Felony. So, and then he was cross-examined, and that cross-examination is what helped Donald Trump fall asleep today. And what I don't think I've ever been more excited for testimony as I am excited to hear testimony of Hope Hicks, because Hope Hicks, nobody's really making a big deal out of Hope Hicks, but she is friendly to Donald Trump. She is a prosecution witness. So that's interesting. I don't think she wants to go to jail. So I don't think she's going to lie. I don't think the prosecution is putting her up there for nothing. She's got to have some valuable information. So the spectacle of someone who is actually in Donald Trump's corner, who is friendly to Donald Trump, who will be very difficult for Donald Trump to say, I don't know this person, or she's a horrible, like what he does, how he throws everybody under the bus. It's going to be hard for him to do that with Hope Hicks. And then, of course, I can't wait for Stormy Daniels to say her piece, and Karen McDougal, the two of them combined. Hoo boy. All the damage that should have been done to Donald Trump in 2016, it is now coming out in 2024. Whatever doesn't come out in the wash, they say, will come out in the rinse. And I saw something earlier today that was, or not today, earlier this week, I think, that Donald Trump was present in the courtroom when people were reading out tweets about him. Hilarious that Trump was in the courtroom when the judge read this tweet out loud during jury selection. Oh, this was last week. Porn star Hush Money NYC jury selection voir dire. Quote, it says here that you tweeted, and I quote, fuck that treasonous orange shit gibbon and the dead ferret on his head. Is that accurate? Quote, the tweet speaks for itself, Your Honor. That is hilarious. What I wouldn't have given to be in the courtroom to get the look on Donald Trump's face when that shit was read. This is an excellent question from Valerie G. Where has Melania been? Melania has been nowhere near the court. Can you blame her? I don't have any sympathy for her, but I also can't blame her for not being present at the trial. Her husband is on, as the shape of his tiny mushroom is described, and all this other lascivious stuff, this sordid business about porn stars and Playboy models and sex while she was pregnant. While she was pregnant with their child, he was fucking around. Whatever didn't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse. Please remember, folks, to hit the subscribe button and the like button. And thank you so much for joining me for another wonderful episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. That's my show for today, folks. I hope you learned a little something today. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. I meant it. I meant every single word, every single syllable. Is she selling Trump Bibles? It is interesting. I saw somebody comment on Twitter that was it Mary Trump? I saw somebody comment that even that cannibal, what was his name? Jeffrey Dahmer. Even Jeffrey Dahmer's parents were in court every single day he was on trial. Wow. I don't know why I put this on the screen, but listen, it's kind of unfulfilled sci-fi love, Bigfoot, UFOs. None of it was true. So yeah, that's weird, you know. Not one family member, not even Eric. Eric, who so desperately craves his father's love, or Don Jr., who, you know, I don't know what to say about Don Jr. He's pathetic. It's very strange to see the complete lack of support for this guy. You know, there is no dispute over what he did, none whatsoever. It's known fact that he had affairs with these two women while his wife was pregnant, and then paid to cover it up. All that shit is known. So in a regular righteous world, he would have already been done politically. He would have been done politically at the very least. We all remember John Edwards. John Edwards ran for president. I think it was 2008, and the revelation came out that he had a love child. He'd fathered a child out of wedlock, cheated on his wife, and he did that, and that was the end for him. Howard Dean just let out a playful guttural yell. Yeah! Still, when I watch video of that shit cracks me up. It's still very funny to me. Yeah! He listed all these states he was going to go to. We're going to go to Minnesota. We're going to go to Wisconsin. We're going to Michigan. Yeah! So funny. And that was it. Just that, a playful little yell. Done. And then years later, Donald Trump, he's shitting himself in the diapers and farting in the courtroom. He's got 91 felony charges. What the hell, America? Come on. Yeah, and I feel like we're being punished. When I say we collectively, not just liberals, but also, moderate Republicans, right? These moderate Republicans out there who are like, the fuck is this? Who have no taste for Donald Trump. They too are being punished by the far right, basically. The people who resented the fact, here it is, they still resented the fact that we elected President Barack Obama. That's what this is about. That's why Donald Trump had this rise to prominence. That was the knee-jerk reaction to President Obama. We had the audacity to put a black man in the White House, a smart one that made us feel not too smart. Why did Donald Trump make such a big deal out of "I love the uneducated"? Why did he go out of his way to say and write stupid shit? I agree. I believe that some of that was unintentional. Some of that, he just really is an idiot. But I believe some of it was intentional, was a play to make people like him more, because I guess he figured out the calculus. He cracked the algorithm. He cracked the algorithm of stupid people in America and figured out, you know what? There's a lot more stupid people than educated people in America. And I'm going to cater to the stupidest people. And I'm going to get their votes. For the most part, seemed like it worked back in 2016 by the skin of his ass, because Hillary still beat him in the popular vote. She still beat him, but he had just enough electoral votes in the places that counted that put him over the top. So yeah. So again, I will say, you guys, thank you for letting me rant for this past hour and some change. I appreciate it. I did need to get some shit off my chest. I appreciate you all. I thank you for joining me here. I'm looking forward to my pizza and wings and the second half of the movie Monkey Man. So, yeah. You guys, I look forward to seeing you here next week. Same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.